Right.
I also get glitches between thoughts. So I go to say something to someone and I lose my train of thought.
Yes.
And I've noticed that my friends are all complaining about this as well.
Right.
So what's actually happening there, and what can I actually do about it?
Kate Marie, I think the most important thing is actually to look at your whole lifestyle first. And I think stress in our lives today is just above and beyond what we're meant to cope with.
Well, it's like pandemic, isn't it?
It is pandemic, and when we're overstressed, we're overstretched. Our brain is overstretched, and so a lot of problems, most memory problems. Dr. Nancy Pachana from the University of Queensland has said that probably 41% of people who indicate they have memory problems, it actually returns to normal after a period of time once they get control of their lives or start doing some things.
It's pretty high, isn't it?
It is, yes. And so the thing is not to panic immediately, but to actually look at your life, look at what you can calm down, make sure you're getting time out, and do things for yourself to enhance your mind and your memory.
Okay.
Yeah, and your life, your living generally.
So how can I assess my brain to see how it's functioning, so that when I apply an intervention,
yes,
to treat my brain, I'll know it's working.
And that you're applying the correct intervention.
Right.
Yes. To assess your brain, first of all, if there are serious problems, for example, if there's been head injury, or if there are terrible migraines and headaches that have come on suddenly, or if there's just obvious difference to the person that was, not a gradual decline, it's extremely important to go to your GP and to get a referral for, at the GP's discretion, obviously, for fMRIs and structural MRIs and CAT scans and things like that.
Right.
That's really, really important, and follow that treatment line. If for the person who is just concerned about memory loss and wants to actually take ownership of their brain and start doing stuff for it, you've got to get a baseline. A baseline's a very good idea, and there are many different things, but there are cognitive assessments that you can do. The WAIS is one example, the Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale.
Okay.
There are a wealth of different things that you can actually do. There are memory questionnaires, there's the mini mental, there's the Woodcock-Allen, there are just a number of different assessment tools that can be utilised. And there are pre and post, like the Amen Schenkel questionnaires that, especially if there are concerns about dementia kicking in. Also, what you can do is have a QEEG, which is a quantitative electroencephalograph, which is the electrical activity of the brain compared to a database.
Okay.
And with that, you can get quite a lot of information, especially when they bring into that what are called the evoked response potentials. So you can then see the visual processing of information and the auditory processing of information. And with that, you can see if there are delays, and in the whole process of it, you can see delays and things like that, and ascertain what's happening. Plus, in Australia, we have a company that's set up, the Brain Resource Company has actually set up an excellent measuring profile, and they've set up one of the largest normative databases in the world. And
normative means it's a database of normal brains.
That's right.
And that's what we compare our brains
That's
to.
exactly
to
right.
see where we fit.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and at our office we've actually we have a brain resource laboratory. Okay. And so we do full brainwave assessments, and after that, then people take off their cap, wash their hair, and come back out.
Brain map? Do you call it a brain
mapping? That's right. Yes, yeah. So it takes about an hour and a half by the time all that's done.
One of those.
Have you? I'm very impressed. It is glamorous. That's right. But then after that, we do a cognitive assessment, and with this as well, we then have a social emotional scale. And questionnaire that it's something like 22 questionnaires within a questionnaire that people complete online, and so all that information is downloaded to Sydney, right here in Sydney, and compared to this database.
Right.
And so we get back a huge report that something like 38 pages of report that we can then see how this person is functioning, but what you do then is converge evidence from all three different groups there, and what corresponds right through, gosh, these are significant areas for these people that either they're excelling in or they're not excelling in or they're coping quite well in. And
is it like some of the pathology reports where they'll give recommendations of treatment or therapy, therapeutic recommendations?
We actually make the recommendations from there. Once we get the report back, we analyse it. We go through it with our clients. It's quite remarkable when you sit down and go through this with clients. It's like
the light bulb would go off.
Actually, it goes on. Because they're so relieved, they're so relieved that there's a reason for the way they do certain things or whatever, and it just all seems to fall into place. It's quite a lovely experience to go through, very humbling actually, to go through with people and feedback their reports, yes. And then from that information we can then set up treatment protocols, and that can involve, it may be treatment for trauma, such as EMDR or cognitive behavioural therapy coupled with that. It might be... we notice from the report that their heart rate variability is very poor, and so we'll then we have programs there to enhance heart rate variability and to teach them how to get
resonant
breathing.
Heart rate variability is a gold standard now for cardiac risk.
It is true. It's very true.
Which is interesting.
Very
so
true.
it's not just a marker of stress response.
That's right.
And other things. So it's an interesting marker, and what gets me is that locally most doctors haven't even heard of heart rate variability.
Okay.
So,
yes.
Anyway,
another
story.
Yeah.
We'll have to do a session on heart rate variability.
Definitely. Yes.
So, so if I want to then, let's talk about neurofeedback and how that works.
Well, when we get the brain maps back from the Brain Resource Company, we can see the deviations from the norm. So they may have high beta activity, and often that will tie in with agitation or anxiety and fast brain activity, not able to sort of calm the brain. And often when we see the profiles, we can link it in with certain behaviour manifestations. But anyway, separate to that, when we see this deviation from the norm, we can then set up protocols on specialised equipment that we have that say we want to inhibit 22 to 30 hertz because that's far too active, and the amplitude is very high in that area. So we want to actually just reduce the amplitude in that region. And so we'll set up 22 to 30 hertz inhibit on the screen. And so we have the people hooked up just with 1 or 2 electrodes and a little transmitter, and they look at the computer and at the screen, and when they think in brainwaves that have amplitude less than that the protocols we've set up, then the movie will go on the computer, and the brain goes, aha, like this, over a period of time. And it's like going to the gym. You can't do it once, you've got to do it a number of times. The brain just connects, and before long...
Better reward process.
It is, exactly that. And before long, they can sit there and the brain is just driving that computer without a mouse or anything. And it's just beautiful. Yeah.